on traveling and eating in local restaurants with Vikki and Kathy. And we are so lucky today because we have Vikki Dietrich here, Chat and Chew More Plants volunteer, and she's been on her plant-based diet path since 1998. So you can imagine she's got lots of tips and ideas on what we can do to eat whole food plant-based. Welcome, Vikki.
Hi, Kathy. And if those of you who don't know, Kathy Thornhill is the founder of Chat and Chew, and she's been on a plant-based path since about 2010. So she also, and she does a lot of traveling, so she's really got some good travel tips. I guess I'll go ahead and get started.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay. One of the things that I do when I travel is, well, first of all, it depends on how you're traveling. Are you traveling by plane? Are you traveling by car? How are you getting there? Where are you going? If I'm going someplace that I'm going to be staying with a friend, or I'm going to be staying in a hotel that I know I can ship food, I'll order things online from either Amazon, or I use vitacost.com a lot. And so I'll order things and just have them shipped right to my friend's house. I'll have oatmeal cups for my breakfast. I'll have dried fruit sometimes if I can get it in packages. There's a brand of roasted edamame, dry roasted edamame that I order. There's a few soups, some of the McDougall soups, and there's some Amy soups that are compliant. And I'll just place that order based on how long I'm going to be there. And I just have it shipped right to their house or right to the hotel. And then I have it when I get there. If we're traveling by car, I sometimes do the same thing, and we take food with us. We have the same kind of food that I've shipped. We also look for Wendy's restaurants because we know we can get baked potatoes. We know we can get salads. The same with Subway shops. You know, you can get a salad. And I take my own potato toppings with us. And I also take our own salad dressings with us, or we look for Ruby, or is it not Ruby? Yeah, Ruby Tuesdays that has the salad bar. We love the Ruby Tuesday salad bar. But I do take our own salad dressing, and I do take our own potato toppings so that we always have the right thing to put on our food. So road trips, we do that. I think that about covers that kind of stuff. Airplanes, when you're traveling by airplane, you do have to be careful what you take on an airplane. I've had people tell me they take hummus. I've had other people tell me that hummus gets taken away from them. But we do have someone that shared with us that they take hummus and they freeze it so it's hard, and they get it through that way. So that would be something to try.
And Vikki, on that one, we do have another video they may want to look at that has some tips in it. And that's one that we did a chew chat with Lisa McCarl. And she went into great detail about, you know, number one, what she's been able to do with several cruise lines to be plant-based. But she told us about what she takes on the airplane with her. And she's the one who freezes the hummus into an ice block to keep all of her stuff. And then you can see in this graphic that she's got wonderful collection of things to dip in the hummus. So once it defrosts, she's set to go.
Right, good. So some of the things I take on an airplane is I'll cook up little baby potatoes, like the little ones that are like 2 bites, and then you can eat 2 or 3 of them, or you can eat one at a time, or whatever you want. I take sometimes baby carrots, grape tomatoes, fruit, bananas are always good. And a lot of the shops, once you get through security, a lot of times you can buy bananas and apples and oranges and stuff like that. So if you don't want to carry it the whole time. The roasted edamame I've taken on airplanes. There's a lot of things you can take on airplanes. You just have to make sure it's not creamy or watery, solid food.
I take baked sweet potatoes, Japanese sweet potatoes. That's what I really like. And, you know, the other thing I do is if it's available, we'll order a vegan meal and eat off of that meal what we can eat. Like usually it's a salad, or sometimes it'll be some fruit that they put on there. And that works real well. And my husband, sometimes before we get on the plane, especially if it's going to be a long trip, we'll stop at one of the restaurants that are in the airport, and we've gone through TSA, and he'll just get something and carry it on. He's
Right.
allowed to do that at that point. That's his meal, that instead of to supplement that vegan meal that doesn't have enough good stuff on it.
That's a good point. And I've seen Wendy's, one of the airports that I was in to or from the last trip I went on, there was a Wendy's in the airport. So, and we know they always have baked potato. They have the best baked potatoes, actually. So that's also a possibility to buy something once you get through security. Look and see what's available there. Yep. And what else do I take on? I do sometimes order the vegan meal. You can take your own salad dressing on the plane if it's in a less than 3 ounce. You have your liquid limitations. If you're only going to eat it on the plane, you don't really need a lot of salad dressing. So you can take it, just be careful of how many liquids you have, and you know the routine on that. But that salad dressing is going to be considered a liquid, so you're limited on what you can take. We have someone that has been on our YouTubes before, JoAnn. You've met her, and she's in some of the Facebook groups. She talks about what she does, very similar to the things that I do, except she takes her potatoes and she makes it into potato salad with Dijon mustard and, gosh, I don't remember, cherry tomatoes and artichoke hearts, and she makes a potato salad type thing that she's able to get away with. Some of the roasted edamame. She also does some dehydrated or dried fruit like mango and sweet potato. I think some of the stuff that she does when she travels is going to be in the show more notes underneath, below the video here. And she does a lot of foreign travel. So she tries to stay places that she's going to have a kitchen, like an Airbnb or a hotel that she's going to have a regular kitchen so she can do most of her own cooking. Of course, when you're traveling, you're going to eat out. So one of the things that she has to compromise on sometimes is she can't always get brown rice. She needs to get white rice. And she's strict. She follows Esselstyn. So she's even stricter than some of us. So if she can do it, I can do it. That's the way I look at it. If JoAnn can go some of the places she goes and eat on plan, certainly I can. But you do have to plan ahead.
Yeah.
Contacting restaurants if you're eating locally. And I know Kathy's going to share some things about what she does about restaurants, but you can call ahead. If it's a restaurant you've never been to before, call ahead. Tell them what your limitations are. Ask them what you can order, what they can make for you. If they don't have something on the menu, can they alter something for you? Most of them are very, very accommodating. And again, I always take my own salad dressing, my own potato topping, so that if they don't have something that's appropriate, I'm prepared. Kathy, I know you do some of the same things.
Well, yeah, in fact, that advanced contact has really helped me for preparation. And for example, we just did a trip to the San Juan Islands in Washington State. And I saved my paperwork to help me remember all the things we did. And so I'll just kind of talk you through what if you're planning the whole trip, because on this trip there were 6 people and we were all whole food plant-based, and I was in charge of the food. So the first thing I did was I got our itinerary, and then I left spaces so I could start writing in places that we could eat that I would begin to investigate. So I had that. And then we had a tour director for part of our trip because it was a bike trip. And so I contacted them. And the way I contact people is I usually talk to them on the phone or through email. And then I send them a follow-up email that has a list of all the things that we can eat and can't eat, and some ideas of what they can serve us, some specific menu ideas. For example, on this one, I talk about, here's an easy dressing. And we did this the other day at a restaurant. There were 4 of us for that. And it was the 3-2-1 dressing, and that's so easy. And restaurants can do that.
Right.
Pasta, that usually works real well in restaurants. That's one of the suggested ones. I also put down a website on this 1-page summary of what we can eat and not eat. Monkey and Me Kitchen Adventures. They have great recipes, and that can give them some ideas. Vikki, you taught me that one. And at the very top it is, we eat a lot of food because our food is very low calorie, small servings, and we'll leave very hungry. So I always want to be sure and tell them that, because you know how they bring these cute little elegant desserts or main courses, and it's awful because you leave hungry. So I also look at the hotels that we're going to stay before the trip starts and after, or if we're going to do a side trip. And that's what I did on this one. We had a total of 3 hotels that we were going to be in, and I wanted to be sure those were covered too. And the reason why I contact the hotels is I want to be sure that they'll have breakfast, you know, like almond milk or soy milk, because we always carry a big container of rolled oats, and that in case we can't get the oats made in water. And so then my husband really likes the milk to go with it. Usually they'll have the fruit, so that'll do well. But in one trip, we looked at the restaurant and thought, you know, maybe we can eat in this restaurant. And thank goodness I did this, because I contacted the actual restaurant at the hotel, and we got the most beautiful foods. In fact, the very first day we got there, the chef sat down with me and went over what we were going to be able to have the following night. So it pays off to contact the hotel. And then when we did our little side trip, the first thing I did was I looked on Happy Cow, and I'm sure you know about Happy Cow. You know, that's like Trip It, but it's for vegan, plant-based eaters. And people write in and say, this is a good restaurant for any place in the world. Just type in your country, your city, and up will come all these restaurants. Now I did the Olympia Peninsula, because that's where we were going to be. And I got a list of places that look like they might work. I looked at their menu, because they always have a link to their website. And then I identified, okay, these are the ones we're going to try to eat for dinner. And since it was 6 of us, you know, I had a little more power. You know, there's 6 of us coming, and can you do this for us? Can you do this? And then after I finished with the email or conversation, I said, I want to send you something. And I sent them that 1-page sheet again. If it was on the phone, it worked out really good. And I have to tell you, it works out, because the very last restaurant we ate in when we went to the Washington State was Nourish. And oh my gosh, we had the most elegant meal ever. I mean, we just took so many photographs, and I'll put up a few of those so you can see. It was just, oh, it was heavenly. We had a wonderful meal, and it was because I had done those initial things, and she knew what we wanted, and she went the extra effort. And then
I love it when that happens.
Oh,
when you just ask. And you know, I used to work with somebody that had a saying that is so true in this particular situation. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. You just have to ask. Sometimes you're going to get no, we can't do that. But if you don't ask, you're always going to get no. So just ask.
Yeah. Yeah, you taught me that. I do that. And oh, there's something I wanted to be sure. When you get to the restaurant, say you go into a restaurant, and it looks like, you know, you've made good contact, you remember the name of the person you've been communicating with, you look for them in the restaurant, and you call in, you know, hey, remember me? I sent you an email, or we talked on the phone. Try to establish somebody's going to be your spokesperson in that kitchen. And then the other thing I do is I take our little card, and this is the card I first started making, like, stop, we do not eat these foods. Go, we eat these foods. We're vegan, whole food, plant-based, no oils, right on the top. And I started making it, though, when my grandson, that was 20 years ago, would travel with us sometimes, and we'd go to restaurants, and he was definitely allergic to dairy. And so I made up a card then that went back, because it's laminated. It goes back to the chef most of the time. And I just said, you know, he will end up in the hospital if you feed him dairy. And it got their attention, because it was true. So that's one of the things. And this will be in the show more, so you can print one out yourself if you want to use ours. And also on the back, when we go to countries that don't speak English, I just go to Google and I type in everything that's on the front, and then just put it on the back in their language. And that way, that really has helped on occasion when we've been someplace where English wasn't the dominant language.
Right. Yeah.
You've probably done stuff like that too, and I know you've been to a lot of local restaurants, Vikki.
Well, I created a card similar to that when I had to go in the hospital. This has been some years ago. And so I created a card that I just gave it to everybody. I gave it to my, my pre-op when I got there. I gave it to the first person I saw when I got to my room. I gave it to the first person I saw from the kitchen. It worked out wonderfully because everybody knew what I wasn't going to eat. And actually in the hospital, it ended up even better because they ended up putting vegan on my chart. And so everybody assumed that was doctor's orders. So the only thing I had to navigate was the oil. So it made it much easier because they thought it was doctor's orders. But I ended up sharing that card with people that have since used it in restaurants. So it's all the same information. It's just going to a restaurant instead of to a hospital kitchen.
We had real good luck one time with a little small mom and pop restaurant in a city close by. And one of our group of 6, there were 6 of us that loved to go out to lunch to a restaurant that we could eat the food. And she taught the chef owner what it was we could eat. And then we all showed up. And we did this regularly. And when you've got that many people and they're all coming on a regular basis, they want to fine tune whatever they feed you. We got some of the most beautiful gourmet food ever in that restaurant. And it was just a little tiny restaurant. So you never know, the power of your ability to go back and visit that restaurant pays off.
Absolutely. And especially if they know you're going to come back and you're bringing others with you. That's a great idea. The other thing that you can do in restaurants sometimes, if you end up eating someplace spur of the moment, you didn't get that chance to call in advance or whatever, and you get there and all of their salads have chicken and it's all chopped up chicken. And what I do is I tell them, I would like that salad, but instead of the chicken, could you substitute whatever? You find out they have this on the menu or that, or substitute extra cucumbers or extra tomatoes. So that way you're still getting your salad and you're getting some extra stuff on it, but they're keeping the chicken. Or if you're eating with people that eat chicken, get the chicken on the side. And then your meat eating companions can have extra chicken in whatever they're eating. So I've done that on occasion too.
And Vikki, that you taught me to do that, and that made such a difference in the price of that dish. Because if I had asked for this chicken salad, no, I don't want this, I don't want the cheese, and they brought that, and then I wanted things added, I would have to pay for all those little sides. But when you substitute, and you got to say that word nice and clearly, substitute.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So, and another thing with traveling, and you had touched on this about going to hotels, I always try to stay someplace where I'm at least going to have a microwave and a refrigerator. So I can bring my own food. I can bake. If I can find a grocery store, I can find a potato that I can bake. So you've always got something that you can either heat up or you can bring in and put it in the refrigerator to eat later. Also, places that have breakfast, typically they're going to have oatmeal. Very often it's not going to be cooked with milk because there's so many lactose intolerant people and milk allergies out there. So I don't think I've ever asked that the oatmeal was cooked with milk. And so they typically have oatmeal, at least oatmeal and fruit. If nothing else, you're going to be able to eat the oatmeal and the fruit. So I do carry my little cups of oatmeal just in case. But yeah, I try to stay places that I know I've got my own microwave, my own refrigerator, and they're at least going to have oatmeal and fruit for breakfast. Yeah.
Well, Vikki, I have found that in foreign countries, they do put milk in the oatmeal. So that's a good question to ask.
Well, you always have to ask. I mean, you definitely have to ask because you be my luck. The first time I don't ask, I start eating it and there's milk in there. So you always have to ask.
Yeah. And then the other thing was that idea about the microwave and the refrigerator. That's one of the things I do now automatically when we get into a room is ask if we can have that. And one hotel we recently stayed in the southwest of the US, they didn't have microwaves, which
Oh, wow.
I thought was crazy, but I think they did that so that we'd order room service. But they did have a little coffee machine. So I heated up the water, and then we were trying out the Leafside meals.
Oh, yes.
And we picked those that had no oil and no nuts and no, like tahini and stuff like that. And we tried them out, and we had our little bowls, and we just used the hot water from the coffee machine, and it worked even without a microwave. So sometimes there's ways to get things done even if you don't have a microwave. So
Well, and some hotels, if there's no microwave in the room, there's a microwave down in the lobby in the kitchen area or where the coffee pot area is. And sometimes if they have coffee all the time, they also have a hot water thing there for tea. So even if there's not a coffee maker in the room, check downstairs and see if they don't have coffee and tea service out there. And it's going to have hot water for you too.
oh,
So,
that's a good idea.
yeah.
Was there anything else, Vicki, that you were going to mention?
One of the other things is, especially on road trips, because we've always liked doing road trips, I take my Instant Pot with me. So if nothing else, I can cook potatoes or I can warm up anything I want to in the Instant Pot. So if you're traveling where you're able to take stuff with you, like on a road trip, take your Instant Pot or take a water, a steamer, some of the things that you buy, the hot water pots and stuff, make your own hot water.
And that there'll be a link for the Nutmeg Notebook by Tami Kramer, where she talks about what she packs when they go on a road trip.
Right.
And the suitcase. If you look on that website that's linked to, it'll not only have a description of how you can dehydrate hummus, but it also has a short video with Tami telling you what she puts in the suitcase when they load up the car. That takes care of all their food. So you'll want to take a look at that one for sure. And I'll also put the link for Lisa McCarl's video. That's the one about the cruise ships, but also her little pack that she carries on. And I'm going to put JoAnn's link. We did a Health-i-monial on her.
Right.
You can see what it did for her, but also how strict she is. So like you said, Vicki, if she can do it, anybody can do it. And she lives abroad sometimes. So.
Yes. Yeah. Last time she went to Thailand, they were there almost 2 months, I think. So another thing is camping. A lot of these videos show how you can take some of these foods camping. And if you're dehydrating, like you talked about dehydrating hummus and stuff, Brittany Girardi does a lot of camping. So all these things that we're telling you about taking on an airplane or taking on a road trip, you can take them camping too.
And we have coming up a interview of Ruth Morley, who is doing the ultimate camping, in that she's walking up Florida and across it. And she's going to tell us how she dehydrates all of her food in December, because she'll start hiking again in January. So watch for that one on our YouTube page.
She has to carry all of her food with her. So yeah. She's a amazing person. That's going to be a great interview.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Okay, is there anything else, Vicki?
I don't think so. I'm kind of looking at our list. You've got both the cards and all the links. There's going to be a lot of links in the show notes. So don't just listen to this and go away. Scroll down to the bottom and see all of the resources that we've provided. Everything we've talked about and some will be down there. So check that out.
Okay. Well, thank you, Vicki, for giving us lots of ideas from your many years of experience. And
thank you.
Well, thank you too, watchers or viewers. And we wish you happy trails.